This is Jason Belzer for Athletic Director U. I'm joined here today by the Director of Athletics at NC State University, Debbie Yao. Thank you for coming today.
Glad to be here.
So we're going to talk about the macro versus the micro.
Sure.
Running a large athletics department, a large organization versus an individual sports program. And I'd love to hear from you to start off. What do you think, in your experience, decades in the business, are some of the general differences between running an organization like an athletics department from an individual sports program, whether it is a coach or as an administrator, making sure that each is successful in their own different ways?
Sure. Well, the only other experience I've had is as a coach, collegiate coach at Kentucky, University of Florida, and Oral Roberts, and I was a women's basketball coach. Your focus is different. My focus was like a laser focus on those 12 women and my recruits and my assistant coaches. So I really felt like I had control of my world in a sense. In other words, I get to pick who I want to recruit, I pick my offense, I select my defense, I select my assistant coaches, I'm involved in my scheduling. It felt good, felt like I had a shot at doing something special, and a lot of it hinged on the choices that I made. When you're a director of athletics, your world is so large, and as an example, at Maryland there were 27 sports where I was athletic director for 16 years, and then at NC State there are 23, and this is my 8th year back home in my home state of North Carolina. So there are many, many needs, plus all of the political elements that go with collegiate sports today, all the media inquiries, communications, like what we're doing today, Jason. So the world just grew exponentially, and then there's that bothersome little part where we have to pay the bills. Sure. And as a self-support unit, like most other Power 5 schools, that's always at the front of my mind is how do we balance the budget? What do we do?
So what about from an individual management standpoint? How's it different leading adults, coaches, administrators, from student athletes, or maybe similarly?
I really think the only thing you need to remember when you're leading anyone, whether it's the student athletes or the adults, the senior administrators and the rest of the team, and we have a couple of hundred people working in athletics at State, is to treat them like you would like to be treated. That's just the right place to start. And if we were talking about management style as an example, I don't think there is such a thing as or should be, a single management style. People are different. When I had players, there were players I had to talk to very softly and would absolutely hear the message and do what I asked them to do. There were other players who wouldn't pay any attention to me in that regard unless I got pretty tough with them. So I think that when you're dealing with employees, you're really dealing with individuals. They're all different. And if you can tap into those differences effectively, then you're going to have a chance to make them and help them become the very best that they can be. And that requires different styles, different approaches, different messaging.
So functionally the same, whether or not you're dealing with an 18-year-old or a 38-year-old in a lot of them.
To me, the nature of the conversations, of course, change.
Sure.
I'm not talking to my senior staff about missing a class. But I am talking to them about the work ethic that we expect at NC State.
How about from an accountability standpoint? Do you hold your staff members, your coaches in the same way? I mean, I think it's important from an organizational perspective that everybody from the top down, there's an expectation that certain things will be done in certain ways. Is that
Right.
how your leadership style has been, both as a coach and an administrator?
I think that you're hitting on something that's important, but I would suggest that the number one place they look for accountability is with their leader. So, it goes back to talking the talk or walking the walk. So I can say all I want to about working hard or working smart or being creative or being on time, for that matter, having a great work ethic. But if I don't, it really doesn't matter. They know what I'm doing, and that matters a lot more than what I say. So I try to set the standard for those traits that I continue to say are important for us in order for us to move the program forward.
Sure. Do you think, obviously you coached at a very different time. Is it more stressful for coaches these days to coach, is it more stressful for ADs than it was 20, 30 years ago? Or have the challenges changed, but the resources have increased, and so has it really changed?
No, it's more stressful
More stressful.
for everybody. The world is more stressful. It's, we get student athletes now, they don't have any empirical statistical data to support this. This is experiential. We always had student athletes coming in to school who had family issues, as an example. We have far more of those now. That's why we have a full-time sports psychologist, and we're hiring 2 postdocs this summer to come in and support her efforts because her caseload is so heavy. And that is not unique to NC State. That's just a sign of the times. Also with staff, I always had staff that were stressed perhaps financially or in their family situations. There's just more of it now because that's just the way the world is or seems to be. So we need to be as athletic directors really need, I think, to be in tune with those issues, because if you have a great employee and they're slipping, trying to figure out why and help them resolve that issue becomes pretty important.
Sure. There are the days of a coach becoming an athletic director seem to be waning in a lot of ways. You are one of the last few old guards, so to speak. What are some of the experiences that you had as a coach that shaped you and now help you have a little bit more empathy with the coaches that you worked with on a day-to-day basis?
Well, when you mentioned the word accountability earlier, I would go there first. I knew I have a kind of an infamous statement as a coach at Florida that I made in my little coaching group about administrators at that time. It went something like this: I know what I have to do. I have to recruit effectively and win games, or I'll get fired, followed by the following question: what do you think they do all day long? I knew nothing about administration or what they actually did, and really didn't understand that until I quit coaching and went into administration. And then, of course, I began to learn there's a whole world going on of support, and in some cases leadership, that help make it possible for the coaches to be the best they can be and for the teams to win as often and graduate student athletes.
Sure. Is there a particular moment that you can think back to, or maybe moments during your coaching career or even administrative career, that made you reevaluate your approach in leadership and organizational management?
Well, there have been many of those, and they still continue. I think that when you quit learning, you need to quit leading. Just have to continue to reassess approaches to everything. I have an extraordinary staff. I really do, and I know every AD says that, but I really do. One of them I worked with, one deputy AD for 18 years and another for 12. And that level of familiarity makes a tremendous difference in terms of the speed. There's a book called The Speed of Trust, so that kind of fits into that category. They just know me, they understand what I want and what I'm looking for. So I feel like we've been able to advance the program from number 89 in the Director's Cup to number 7 last week. We've never finished in the top 25, and I don't know if we're going to do it this year or not, but that is certainly remains the goal. I stated that as the competitive goal on the day I was hired in June of 2010, and nothing's changed there. So I think that it all kind of revolves around one's ability to continually reassess why they do what they do. And I've learned a lot. I would say one of those things is to be more patient. I'm not sure what my staff would say about that, but I think that those who have worked with me a long time might suggest that I'm somewhat more patient now than I was as a younger AD 28 years ago. Because there's some things that you don't meet certain goals overnight. It's going to take time, and you need to work through the issues and hopefully work through them as a team.
Sure. Rome wasn't built in a day. So you have arguably hired more administrators and coaches than maybe any AD out there. Have you intentionally surrounded yourself with different types of leadership styles, maybe individuals that have different strengths or weaknesses to you? And how do you go about building a great organization?
I've never thought about it in those terms exactly. In other words, do they have the same management style, or are they different and will complement mine? What I've really spent more time thinking about is whether or not they have the same shared values. Whatever their style is, what are their values? And I want the values to be similar. And part of that is going back to what we said earlier, what's your work ethic? How do you feel about student athletes? Have you demonstrated that care for them? What's your level of experience? So it really goes back to the values. So we're eclectic as a senior staff. When we meet, I'm never quite sure what's going to happen. We have a set of rules for when we meet as a senior staff. They're called the cabinet. This is the smaller group, and basically there are rules on there like, I'm going to be professional, collegial in what I say, but I don't want to stop the flow of conversation either. So I want them to feel like they can say in this, I'm not sure I like the term safe space, but it's the only thing that comes to mind right now. I want them to feel it's okay to disagree, and I can state why I disagree with you because I think we make our best decisions that way. And they do that. They don't always agree, but it helps me assess what should happen and what choice should I make.
Sure. So there seems to be an incredible amount of pressure on individuals in your position today. We see it now with social media and individuals rising up. We call it social brand terrorism. Do you think that athletic directors maybe need to sit down, take a deep breath, and reapproach how they react to what their stakeholders are telling them? Because it seems like sometimes it's, as they say, the prisoners running the prison versus the individuals that were hired to do this every single day, making the decisions that they need to do.
Well, every AD, as you point out, is different. I have a high tolerance level for this because of the level of appreciation I have for them for buying tickets and contributing to the scholarship fund. So on the day I was hired, I suggested that we would have a hotline and they could ask any question they wanted to, and we put that on the home page of our website. Since then, of course, Twitter has come along. So they bypass that homepage thing. They come straight to me on Twitter to ask questions and to make comments. And I engage with them because I think that level of respect matters, it's important, and they deserve it. Only people I would not respond to would be people who are just simply profane, for no good reason, just that way. But other than that, I think the engagement makes us a better program, a stronger program overall as an enterprise.
So if anyone is willing to have an open intellectual conversation with you, you're willing to engage with them?
I try. I will tell you that there have been a couple of times where the volume was just so overwhelming, I could not manage it. And if the messaging is similar, let's just say, someone says so and such coach should be fired. There have been times when I've done group messaging through email, basically to say to them, this is where we are in the process, and basically our focus right now is to support the coach and our team.
Right.
And there'll come a time where those discussions will occur, and they'll be private, and they'll be between the coach and me, and I'm not gonna talk to you about it because that's inappropriate.
Sure. Debbie, this has been a great conversation. I appreciate you joining us today and giving us some insight into your leadership style.
My pleasure. Go Pack.
Thank you.